When Joker was first released, there was something about the film that just drew people to it. It even somehow drew detractors that knew basically nothing about it to such an extent it was broadcasted all over the news and was the topic of many debates. But this wasn't enough to stop the film from being seen, and boy was it seen. This movie felt like every aspect of it was carefully crafted, every shot designed to invoke a reaction, a story that was emotionally complex yet simple to understand, with characters that were full of sympathy and complexity and that felt real, backed up by themes and discussions that helped this movie get its messaging across alongside a haunting musical score and some phenomenal performances. To be honest, the only main issue I could think of is it didn't really feel like a movie about the mad clown Prince of Gotham, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can have a unique take on a character, and this was certainly unique. It ultimately felt like a film that was made from passion, which is why I can confidently say that Joker Folie Au Deux is one of the most passionless projects I've ever seen. Let me just start off with the positives. The performances by all of the actors was very good. I didn't see a single bad performance throughout the film. Everyone was giving it their all, and yeah, they really tried their best to bring these characters to life on the big screen for us. Another thing that is really good about this film is the production. There is so much time and effort taken into making sure that all the shots look brilliant, into making sure that all the costumes are brilliant, the set design, the musical scores, the special effects, the stunts, everything about it looks great. However, that's pretty much where it ends, because ultimately the heart and soul of a movie is the writing. It is the main story, it is the themes, it is all of these people who are living in this world. And ultimately, this script is just terrible. Now, I knew that there was going to be music in this film, but there is far too much of it. I thought it was going to be a film that had music in it, not a musical. It seems like throughout the film it's just constantly trying to just insert songs just to try and distract you from the main plot, because there's not really a lot going on, so it has to fill it up with something. So every now and then it'll throw a song in, and sometimes these songs don't even really have anything to do with what the characters are feeling or anything to do with the plot. They're just a song that's thrown in. A well created and well choreographed song and dance routine, sure, but just inserted randomly. There's no purpose to it. The characters also just don't really have a lot going for them. There's so much about this script that doesn't make sense that it's very struggling to try and identify what Arthur's trying to do throughout the film, who he's trying to be. In the first film, it was very well established that Arthur as a person was very meek and weak-willed, and ultimately he didn't really try and harm anyone. But there was a deeper aspect to him that wanted to be powerful, that wanted respect, that wanted to punish the people who punished him. And ultimately, you know, we could sympathize with him. Here, I've got no idea what his end goal was. I've got no idea what he was trying to do. And then that's not really helped by the fact that we know basically nothing about Harley Quinn in this film. Most of it is either lies or it's just made up stuff. There's no actual core character to her. She's just a thing that pushes the plot along. A well acted and well performed thing, but just a thing. All the other actors get barely anything to them, and while it is nice to see some of the previous characters from the previous film come back and try and flesh things out a bit and give their perspective on what happened in the aftermath of the first film, they just don't really get a lot to do. Another bad thing about this film is that it doesn't really seem to know what it wants to do during the scenes. There's a scene in the courtroom where Arthur's dwarf friend from the previous film comes back, and he has to give his haunting and very saddening witness testimony to the jury, and the actor's putting his all in. It's a very well acted scene, but they don't capitalize on it. There's no part where Arthur's in his Joker persona and then he sees how badly he damaged his friend and he just kind of gets a moment of grief and sadness about the whole situation. There also isn't a scene where it's mostly Arthur just trying to convince his friend to help him, only for the Joker persona to come out and chastise his friend for abandoning him. No, it's just Arthur being wacky and goofy for about 5 minutes and that's it. That's the scene. There was so much potential in it, and instead the film just kind of mocks it and moves on. There's just so many scenes like this where they could have done so much with it, but they don't. They just stop because they want to move on to the next thing. There's basically no themes or any sort of existential part to the script. It's just nonsense. Nothing's really explored. There's no messaging for us to grasp at. It's just empty. There's nothing to it. I understand a film not trying to make a statement, but usually with pretty much every film, you can at least grasp some sort of messaging to it, some sort of epiphany. But here, there's just nothing. As I've said, the script's so incoherent and the characters are so all over the place that there's no sort of theme for us to grasp, which is pretty surprising considering how well the previous film did with crafting all of these different themes and perspective and political ideology for the audience to grasp. But here, I guess there's just nothing for us. Finally, let's talk about the ending because this is by far the worst part of it. So in the end, he dies. He gets stabbed by a random inmate that some scenes had him appear in the background for, but ultimately this was just a character that seemed to just be randomly pulled out to kill him. And so that's how it ends, with all of this courtroom business and all of this stuff that he's trying to do. Everything is just removed and extinguished immediately like that. There's no build up to it. It just happens and then the movie's over. So on top of watching 2.5 hours of Arthur just basically do nothing and just daydream, he then dies at the end. And the only thing that could make this story even more sad and pathetic is this little theory that I've come up with, because it seems to be what the movie's implying. So throughout the film, Arthur is constantly antagonizing the guards at the asylum, and one of the main guards is this old dude, and him and Arthur have a very bad falling out. This guy is beating on Arthur pretty much constantly, and he's just doing all of this torture and sadistic stuff because of the things that Arthur has said about his treatment during the asylum visits. And then at the end of the film, there's a little scene where this same dude is walking past Arthur and he gives him a little wink and he tips his hat to him in a very polite and friendly manner, as if to say that they're friends and they have a good relationship with each other, which doesn't make any sense considering what we've seen in the previous parts of the film. I don't know why this guard would be so friendly with Arthur considering how much he despises him, unless of course everything that happened throughout this movie wasn't real. He didn't antagonize the guard and they've always had a friendly relationship, in which case the movie just wasted 2.5 hours just to kill off the main character and then end. This is not a movie that was made because someone had passion and wanted to bring that to the big screen. This is not a film that got made because someone had a really unique idea and wanted to bring it to life. This is a movie where Todd Phillips had a very vague understanding of what he wanted the next sequel to be, and then he just shot that instead of fleshing it out, and then he decided to just make it bad at the end. Ultimately, this film is just all over the place, and I'm even more shocked by the fact that there's so much stuff that was in the trailers that just isn't in this movie. Like those scenes where Harley Quinn is getting all dressed up and it's mirroring the elevator scene from the previous film, to the part where Harley and Joker are dancing down the steps from the courthouse, that's just not in the movie. There's so much stuff that's just missing. You have all of these song and dance numbers and all of this uninteresting stuff, but you kept that in and got rid of what seemed to be the most interesting scenes in the film. Ultimately, this film is just pointless in every single way that you can when it comes to a script. Nothing about it is redeemable. The only redeeming aspect is entirely on the production side. Everything to do with the script and the story, all of that is just awful. Don't bother watching this movie, just go see something else. It didn't need to be made, it shouldn't have been made, and the fact that it's been made and this is what they came out with is just absolutely shocking. Especially considering that it's the exact same people who made the previous film, so I've got no idea what happened. Just go see something else. Forget about this, just let it flop, because this film just completely destroys everything good that came before it.
Thanks for watching, lads and lasses. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing and checking out some of my other videos. Sharing always helps, and if you're feeling really generous, please consider my Patreon or YouTube membership. I also have a Twitter and occasionally I do live streams. But most of all, I just hope you had a great day and hopefully I will see you in the next video.